guys, Laura here from Grain & Company. Today I'm going to go through the staining of your round for your houseplant sign in your subscription box. We are using a new color called Sesame, and we think it's going to complement the colors for the sign really nicely. So if you haven't stained before with the stains that we carry, we are using a water-based stain. We have your foam brush, you'll have your gloves, and you'll need something to wipe off that excess stain. So I like to stain my back first and then leave my good side up when I'm done. So if you look at your wood round, if you see any imperfections or whatever, just make sure that is your back and then so forth. So take your foam brush, give it a good squish in your stain, and I like to turn the brush on its side and wipe it on in the direction of the grain. You want to keep your surface slightly damp so that way when we go to wipe it, it will blend and make your stain look even. Okay, so I'm going to wipe it now. And then I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. It doesn't take a whole lot of stain, but you just definitely want to make sure that surface is slightly damp. So I'm going to take my brush and run it along the side. All right, and then give it a final wipe. And with your edges as well, and then go around and rub it in the back. Just make sure you get anything that may have dripped or you touched with your wet gloves. And then I like to leave the good side I want up to dry. All right, just like that. And then once it's dry, we'll come back and we'll give it a sand, and then that part will be ready for putting on your laser design when it's done. All right, see you soon. Hi guys, so I'm back now and we're gonna finish sanding around. Your stain should be dry and the surface feels a little bit rough. So we want to smooth that out so you have a nice finish. So take your sandpaper, your 400 grit, your finer one, and with the grain, you will sand it nice and smooth. If you want to distress the edges or anything like that, now's the time to do it. Once we start to do your sign and you attach those pieces after, you won't be able to do anything to this. So you do your edges as well, and then turn around and do the other side. And then take a cloth, and now you can wipe that free of dust, and then you can just put that off to the side. So now you can bring out your 3D sign in its template. Now when we cut these, there's some very tiny pieces here, and you have masking on both sides to keep the pieces together. When we pull these out, I do my best to make sure every piece is cut. There is a lot of pieces in here, so there is the chance that I could have missed one. So to know whether or not that is the case, don't take the whole back off. You need to keep this on here, but you can pull it down and you can look at your pieces. So what you're looking for is to be able to see all of these, to recognize the word, so it'll be backwards, but you want to make sure there's no void where the cut hasn't gone all the way through. Now, if it hasn't gone all the way through, because these letters are all these details are very thin, you need to be very careful when you press on these, even when you're painting. But you can take an X-Acto knife and you can just gently go in there and try and complete that cut. What happens is that it cuts through on the front side, but sometimes there's a void in the wood, like a glue in the wood, that the laser won't cut through. So by going through and connecting that line, you can complete that. Sometimes if you have to push too hard, it will break your letter, depending, or your design piece, because it's very thin. So if that does it, if you happen to have one that's stuck and you try it and it breaks a piece, it's not the end of the world. You can still paint everything about your design here. Just let me know exactly which piece is not going to come out, which one is broken, and I will replace that little piece for you. So, I mean, on mine, this one's fine. You can just keep turning it, peeling this back, and looking to make sure all of those pieces are able to come out. So even though you may have connected that line and cut it, make sure that it can come out, because just because you connected it didn't mean you went through all the way. So make sure that it's able to come out of that slot that it's cut in. Okay, hopefully I didn't confuse you guys, but any questions on that, please call me or message me. So the front part we are taking off, okay? So if some of your guys' pieces are missing insides of a letter or inside, whatever is missing is not important. It's just parts that don't need to be painted, and sometimes when we're cutting and they're really small, they fly around the machine and go to the bottom, which then I can't find. So like these little tiny pieces in here, not necessary. So if you peel this back and they come out, just keep them out. You don't need them anymore. Okay, so don't need this. However, this piece is really good for some of these pieces we're going to take out of here. You can place them on here so they're not going to bounce all over when you're painting them. Okay, so you're going to, so home is where the house plants are, and all of the outer frame of your plant and your stars are all done in the color raw silk. That's the color we've given you. The pot base we are giving you in cathedral taupe. So I can just push from the bottom side and kind of get a handle on it and pop it up. Now remember, it's got the adhesive on the back so that you'll be able to peel it and set it into place. So I'm just going to stick it right now on there. The green leaves, we're going to use a new color that's a limited color. It's called Jenny's Green, and it's perfect for this. So just be careful when you pull these out that you don't break them. Okay, so this part will come out. Now you'll see the inside of the leaf. Now there is an inside to that other part. Just pull it off, take that piece out. Some of you may already be missing it, and just stick that back down. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be lined up. You're just going to paint it, and we'll set it in the proper place later. I'm going to pull this one out. Same thing. Get rid of that middle piece if yours isn't already gone. Even this piece can come out. You don't need this. Okay, and then toothpick works fine. Just be careful when you pull up that you don't grab onto the stem of the plant. And then once again, you can pull that one out, take that little piece, and then shove it back in. If it happens to flip upside down, watch, because the backing for the adhesive looks the same color as the wood, so just make sure that you put the right side up. And now we're going to start to paint. So for those of you who did February's kit and you did the laser 3D heart, painting technique is going to be fairly similar. When painting in a template like this, we are still using very little paint. You want so little paint that it doesn't go down the sides of the letters. If you use too much paint, what happens is it goes down that side of the letters and then it will lock them into place. They will dry there and they won't come out. So really we're just painting that surface. Even after each coat, you can just gently kind of wiggle them, make sure they're not setting into place. But what I would suggest, if you don't want to put this together the same night that you're making it, once you've done that last coat and it's given like 5 minutes to dry, pop all of the pieces out of their template. Because if it happens to dry overnight and you had a little bit more paint somewhere and they got stuck in there, it's really not coming out. So if you take all the pieces out, you can always, they'll be ready to go for when you need to just put the template on, and then you can start placing those pieces back in there. So there we go. So we're gonna use raw silk. Let's get mine here. Okay, so now you should have your raw silk paint. Okay, so I cut my sponges in half because I don't need a very big surface area for covering something that is very thin. So I'm just going to put some paint on it, and then you're going to blot it all off. You shouldn't really have like a wet look. It really should look dry. Now, because we're doing raw silk on a color of wood that pretty much looks like raw silk, it's going to, you know, take a little bit for you to really see it come a little bit more even. Okay, you know what? If you find that this isn't, well, there we go, as tacky. Usually when we do the smaller signs, we put painter's tape across the back, but it's a lot of painter's tape when we do big signs like this. So if you need to, you could always put your cover back on the front, peel that back, and cover up each section with painter's tape if you're finding that they are bouncing out of your template too much. But what you're doing is you're just hitting that surface. It's pretty much like a dry sponge, and you're gonna do, I'll probably do 3 layers. The first one's really just getting it on there and priming it kind of, and then the second one will start to solid it up a little bit more. I'll take a look at it after the second. It might be good enough, but and the contrast will be more once you stick it on the stain board, so it's really hard to tell in here already. But anyways, if pieces like that start popping out and that's part you don't need, just leave it out. It's not a big deal. All right. You can use your other hand to hold this down if it starts to bounce. And you will just continue on doing this until you get your first coat done. Once it's done, then we will come back. I always like to do a light sand, whoops, after my first coat. And then I will do my other ones afterwards. All right, so I'll let you guys go. I'm just gonna leave the video run. You can watch me if you want. It'll just be really, really fast. Okay, so that is the first coat on that. Then you can bring this over. If you have a little plastic baggie, you can put your sponge in. They tend to dry out fairly quickly, so just kind of cover it up. If you leave it too long and it gets really dried out at the end, just take your scissors and snip it off. Okay, so next one I will do is, know what, I want some color, so I'm gonna do some green. This is the same green. So this will be the same green that you use on your tiered tray. The color you see in the video changed my mind. And this green came out in that time. So we decided that this would be a lot better to keep it uniform across all the projects. So we use the Jenny's green. So way too much. Take your sponge, blot it off. And now you can blot. Now because it's pretty much dry, it really doesn't take long. So what I'm gonna end up doing is I will probably finish all of the green leaves before I go over here, because once I'm done, I'll snip that sponge off and then I'll use it for my next color so I don't have to start a new sponge. Very little. Now be careful when you have pieces like this on their own that too, you're just painting the tops. If you get a little crazy and you get some paint going over the sides and it gets into the edges, just watch that you're layering this design into another. So any extra paint on the sides might give it issues when you're layering it back into the template. So if you do get a little bit of a drip or something of paint, try and wipe it when it's wet. If not, take some sandpaper after the fact and you can just sand it away. We're never gonna see this one. It's gonna be sitting in there so you won't see the edges. Now that is dry already, so I'm just gonna give it a sand on the first one. Because we're not leaving them sit that long, your paint can definitely sand away pretty quickly. But that's why I like to do the first one, because then I'm just kind of giving it that first coat. It's now smooth. When I go do my extra coats, it really won't show much for texture, and then I might not have to sand it at all after. All right, and I'm just gonna go do them again. Okay, I'm just gonna give those a second to dry. I'm just gonna come in here. Now, if you feel this one, it's dry, but it's very rough. So that's where I'm just gonna kind of slide my sandpaper over. I don't wanna catch anything and break it, so it's just a very gentle sand. Once I get this on, once it's done and the pieces are adhered to the board, I can always come back and give it a final sand. But just doing enough just to take that texture down. All right, so I will come back to that in a minute. And I'm gonna do these one more. I'm not gonna sand them, they're dry enough. Okay, I'm just gonna move this off to the side. Now, because I was moving this around and the tape's not on that well, I knocked my pieces out. So I don't want to just lift it up because then all of my pieces will fall out. So I'm just gonna gently try and get the one piece that is in my way. There we go. I mean, if it happens and it comes out, then just let them all fall out and then tape off your back, plop them back in and go at it again. Oh, come on. Which might be me in a second. one is giving me problems. There we go. Oh, come on. Do toothpick. Okay, there we go. Oops, now my star. Shoot. Okay, before I do anything else, I'm just going to put a piece of tape over the side. Go. There we go. Okay, that's back in place. Trust me, it is a pain when it comes out, so. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to let's let that slide there. I'm going to kind of tape my backing so it doesn't lift up. So I'm just going to do it this way. There we go. All right, so lesson learned, just don't move it around. Okay, there we go. If you have to move your body and let this stay right there, then you're less likely to end up with an issue like me. Okay, so this piece, like I said, just once this is dry, snip it off right there, then you can use it to paint this one again. I'm going to take my sponge, blot it in the paint, and start to do my second coat. And as that second coat starts, you will be able to see it's a little bit brighter than the wood now, so that's good. Okay, second coat's done, so I'm not sure what you guys are seeing there, but it does appear a little brighter on my area here. So I will come back and do another coat in a few minutes, but in the meantime, I'm going to slide this over very carefully, and then I will do this piece. So now, take my sponge, cut it off, and be done. So just a little smaller, and that's okay. You could do it either way. You could do this color first and then do the green. Okay, here we go. Even with this one, you could take a small little paintbrush, just because it's a flat, a bigger area, but the sponge does work just as well. All right, that's the first coat. Give it a second, and yeah, I'll come back in a minute and we'll continue on with the next part. Okay, so give this one a sand. Make it nice and smooth. And do another coat. Okay, so let that one dry. And I'm not going to do another sand on this one right now. I'm just going to leave it. And Okay, so I'm gonna do my final coat. Just gonna turn it upside down this time. Okay, so that's my last coat, and I won't be putting this together till tomorrow, so I'm just gonna give it a minute to dry, and then I'll show you what I'll do to pop that out, and let it just dry that way. Because for some reason, if you know any puddling anywhere on any letter can make it stay in there and it's not coming out. So anyway, so once these are done, you know what, like if you're doing other kits and stuff, once I'm done, if it's good, I'll snip it down and keep it for other little projects when I only need like the tiniest of sponges. So you know, if you have a stash somewhere, you can just add those to that. Now this color covers very well, and you know what, I'm just gonna put one more in there. Okay, just gonna leave that. Okay, take that off there. That's it. Okay, so I'm just gonna pop my tape off. Let's turn it around. Okay, so gently lift it out. Now they are stuck to the back of that adhesive, so which is totally fine. They can stay on there. Now I just kind of took my finger and I broke that piece, but it's not really the end of the world. It's the template, so it's not gonna affect anything. I would have a toothpick or something close that you can kind of gently help push on these. Not so much that has paint on it, just sometimes I just don't want to pop out, but there we go. Now you can just peel that back off, but you can flip it upside down and have them come out upside down if you want. That's probably easier, but I decided to just lift it up. There we go. All right. So I have a couple pieces here, there. So those inners can come out, not a big deal. It's the same with, don't worry if the letters get all mixed up. Just leave them paint side up, and you can also take those insides out just so you know that they're not painted and locked into place. So they can come out as well. There we go. So anything that would have a center we don't need. So these little pieces don't need to be there. Just gonna put that back like that. Okay, so those are good. My stars, insides are out, and nothing is in here. So don't throw this away. This will be what we use tomorrow, or my tomorrow. We'll put it on top, and then that will allow us to place those pieces in there in the exact spot that they're supposed to. All right, so have fun with the rest. I will come back tomorrow and finish this up, and then we can see what it looks like. All right, see you guys. Okay guys, I'm back here to go through the assembly process of your sign. If you haven't already, you can give your pieces of sand. I'm just gonna sand a few of these that I haven't done yet. So what you want to do is grab your base of your sign, and when you are putting together a sign, the most natural looking is to have your grain of your wood go side to side. So sometimes it's hard to tell because the grain might want to, veer off in some other direction, but just kind of look for most of it to go from side to side and to be evenly, horizontal instead of like twisted. So if it doesn't bother you, then don't worry about it, but it does look the most natural and professional to do it that way. Okay, so pick your best side and see what you like. I think I'll go this side actually. Let's make sure you guys are nice and centered, and then grab your template. Now, when you put your template on, you want to make sure it is straight as well with the lines in your board. And there. Okay, so the first few might be, or first couple might be a little tricky. What you want to do is make sure that you get, which piece am I trying to do here? You know what? I need this one first. Actually, I'm going to do a couple letters instead because that'll be the easiest. I want this to be able to not move. So I'm going to just place a couple letters so that I know that this template won't twist on me. So what you're going to do is peel off that adhesive backing and place it into your slot and give it a good press. Now I'm going to do one opposite so it is good to go. I might actually go grab some tape. I would do some clamps, but I don't think mine are gonna hold it still. Okay, so make sure this hasn't twisted and gone off the edge. Make sure it's nice and evenly spaced. And then you're good to go. So now if you need to line it up, it's where it should be. So next I'm going to take this piece. Now this piece is very fragile, so do your best to pull on that backing without breaking it. Just be patient. If you have to rip it off, start from another point, that's fine. Just careful when you get your fingers stuck on the adhesive, that when you lift your fingers, it's not gonna snap at that point. So just kind of sometimes ground it from the outside. There we go. Okay, so now I'm gonna take this piece and put that in the middle. So now you can give it a good press. And now you can just start lining everything up. All your pieces will fit together like a puzzle. And yeah, so I'm just gonna quit talking here and I'm just going to put the pieces together and you can just watch on a very fast video. putting the last piece in. And now the big reveal. This is what's the fun part. And you pull it off and you have your beautiful sign. There you go. So it's all done. It looks amazing. The only thing I didn't show you in the first part when I stained this was that we are probably going to give you a set of easel stands. So we're going to give you a set of easel stands, so you can either stand this up if you want, or you can command strip it or lean it up on a shelf, but you've got a bottom slot, top slot, and I would, you can either stain it the same color, you could always paint it the cream. It's really what you prefer, or any other color that you want. So once they're done, and you'll do both sides, because if you only do one side, when you put them together, you'll see the other side unfinished. So you'll want to stain or paint both sides. When you're done, then you'll just shove it in that slot so they'll stand like that. And I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this, and then it'll be able to just lean on there like that. Okay. Now I talked about sanding these little pieces. Now I didn't do my last sand. They just dried out of template last night. My green and my taupey color here are nice and smooth. Now I'm just gently pulling down. I don't want to go like this just in case I catch one and it pops off. It shouldn't if you press really hard, but just gently go over those pieces, take off any of the texture from your last coat that you did. That way they feel a bit smoother. Just like that. And you can just wipe it off when you're done. Oops, see, look at that. See, I did say you could knock one off. All right, so if that happens, I'm just going to line this back up. And I apparently didn't press that one in very hard. Okay, so I'm gonna push it in there and then give that one a good press. There we go. There you go. So all done. I hope you enjoyed that one. I had a lot of fun with it, and look forward to seeing your projects on the group page. Love to see if you've changed anything about it. And yeah, thanks guys.